Okay guys, so it looks like that the aluminum processing was pretty successful. In fact, it's been a while since I could record and I accidentally left the base chunk loaded. What I mean by that is, you know, casual 40,000 aluminum. But once again, infinite numbers are always what you want to go for. Just have things always working passively in the background. I decided to actually just remove the EBF off of aluminium for a bit, and actually now we're gonna move it towards silicon. So I just have some gallium here and silicon, and that's hopefully gonna take care of most of the silicon needs that I have for a while. But if you're wondering what I need all this aluminium for, honestly, it's for applied energistics. I mean, it's just, I just kept seeing it in interfaces, right? So if I look at ME drive, requires aluminium. If I look at ME chest, okay, doesn't require aluminium. But if I go to something like interfaces, because interfaces, I'm going to be making a crap ton of interfaces, requires about aluminium, and these are all MV robot arms. So a huge aluminium production process is highly recommended if you want to be going into aluminium. I mean, if you want to be going into applied energistics. You know, I don't take baby steps. I guess when I do progression, it's just giant leaps at a time. So hopefully it'll look good. These are the 9 breweries that I was making. The deal with these breweries is just simple. I'm just going to feed them all water from probably an endervore or something. And then I'm going to take the water that I'm feeding those, give it sugar cane, and it should be good to go. The power requirement for these advanced breweries, interestingly enough, if you look at it, it's only about 3 EU per tick. But since it's MV, it's going to be overclocked twice. So first, because it's going to be overclocked to L, so that's going to be 12, and then it's going to be overclocked again to 48. So that should cut down the total time though from 800 ticks or 40 seconds down to, I think, 200 ticks or 10 seconds if the math holds up. So the plan is, once I put the sugar cane in there, so yeah, so it's about every 10 seconds I'll need to give it, so it's like a sugar cane a second. This clearly outperforms a sugarcane a second. And then from there, so this will be producing, once again, about 900 millibuckets every 10 seconds. That's going to be turning, that's going to turn the biomass into ethanol, which is going to take about 1K biomass every single second. But I'm also going to make this out of MV just for completionist sake. So that's also going to be overclocked a little bit, giving me faster ethanol. The distillery does not need to be overclocked, but doing it for compact reasons. So let's get this distillery made. It's kind of weird how there's no HV distillery. That kind of caught me off guard. I'm just more curious out of a progression standpoint or a consistency standpoint. I don't really care about it in terms of progression. Oh well. I did a little bit of remodeling. I moved the sugarcane around, and most importantly, I had the advanced brewery set up. Just a quick explanation. What I did was the sugarcane drawer used to be here. Right now, I'm just using the wonderful channel colors on Ender.io conduits. So having it extract into brown, which inserts into the only brown, which is the main storage drawer, which has an emerald, some emerald upgrades and a void upgrade. Following on after that, so it's inserting to brown and extracting out into green. And green is what you see all across over here, which is the steam dynamos over there and the various breweries over here. So the breweries themselves, this is about 9 MV breweries. They're overclocked to medium voltage. Like I said earlier, the math works out so that these should be taking about 10 seconds rather than 40 seconds because it's overclocked twice. Once from ultra low voltage, where the recipe originates, to low voltage, then from low voltage, medium voltage. So from 3 to 12, then 12 to 48. So 9 times 48 is about 400 something. It's like 400, I don't know. It's like 450 something. So that's why I have an MV CEF. CEF at MV, it can power 9 machines with 4 amps because you don't need to send an amp to every single BreakTech machine per tick. You know, it'll probably just check like every other tick, or whenever this is empty, it'll send an amp to. That's why this one CEF, which is only capable of 4 amps, is enough to power 9 machines. On the side note, I'm actually using aluminium cable. I know that you can use energetic alloy cables 4 times, but to be honest, I have so much aluminium. Like I showed you before, the aluminium setup is like literally spitting out like 43K aluminium I haven't processed. I really need to make a lot more EBFs. I'm partially thinking I want to make an aluminium block base, that or a sodium block base. Sodium is beautiful, in my opinion. I think it makes a really nice, good looking blue block. So it could be sodium and aluminium are the base designs I have in the future. I also upgraded this whole entire power network to just Vibrant Alloy. Vibrant Alloy is now easier now that I have deep mob learning running with more power. That's kind of nice. It's, like I said before, I really urge players to just have one main line of RF running throughout their base and then converting locally to BreakTech EU. It's just easier to transfer around. And then the next part here, all of these breweries are actually on channel green as well. So sharing the same steam dynamos over there. I produce more sugarcane than I really use right now. So I'm okay with having it share the same channel as my power, right? Because all of these here also use green as well. So the long story short is what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to make another CEF here, right? I'm going to set up an advanced distillery as well as an electrolyzer. This one's actually going to be dedicated to making chrome because I want to start stocking up on the stainless steel to get into HV machines, as well as any MV level type of electrolysis that I need to get going on. And then this advanced distillery is actually going to be making a lot of the ethanol that will be my future source of power. And actually, the best place to store the ethanol, I think I might be using a quantum tank instead. Or I might use 3 to 4 quantum tank because this is only the basic quantum tank requires MV field generators. This requires circuit advance. All right, so I guess I'll make about how much of these? This stores about 64 million millibuckets. So let's just say, let's go with 3. I'll make 3 of these right now. Actually, since it requires a lot of circuits, I changed my mind. I'm going to backtrack a little bit and I'll just make 1. If I need more, right, because if I make 64,000 buckets of ethanol, I can always make an extra one. So I'd just rather just be smart with my circuits right now and not use it right away. All right, so we're back here. We have, let's get our ender fluid conduits here now. So one thing I really like about ender fluid conduits is that they have an amazing channel system, or not channel system, color channel system. Well, I guess it is a channel system because it says channel, so I'm dumb. I just like it because it's simple. It lets you have, like, it's what, 16 colors or something ridiculous like that. So it lets you have like 16 different pathways. Like the channel system in ender fluid conduits itself is more powerful than the ability to put item conduits, fluid conduits, and energy conduits in the same block, right? If this couldn't share blocks with other conduits, that would be amazing. But since both item conduits have a channel system and fluid conduits have a channel system, it's mind-blowingly good. And it just makes a lot of logistical problems so simple. I mean, I don't know how to way to word. I can understand why it's a fan favorite. It really just, if you're focused on just building huge factories and you want to worry, and you're more focused about, like, I don't know, energy transfer or processing times, and you're not really concerned about the actual logistical physical placement of items, I could see why conduits appeal to a lot of players, because some players don't like playing Tetris 24/7. They just want to build things, you know, and they want to keep things in a nice, compact, really clean solution. I have no hate towards conduits. In fact, I love using them. I can see why people might not approve of these conduits. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start pulling things into brown, and that should fill up into here in this distillery. At least I think. Oh, I might have to screw drive the side with the conduit trying to extract from, right? Let me see. Oh wait, this is an item conduit. That's awkward. Yeah, let's not do that. Okay, this is found it. We were in the fluid conduit side. All right, so we're going to extract onto brown, and hey, there we go. That's nice and fast, actually. So the basic quantum tank is going to just feed under it, which is awkward because I'll have to wire back fluid conduits to throughout all the relevant areas in the base. What I'll try to do is because I just want to set up another electrolyzer here as well. All right, so that places the CEF right there and powers the electrolyzer and the distillery. Distillery should get power, so why aren't you working? Oh, you need a circuit. So everyone has their own quirks, things that they forget about when they're playing Minecraft. For me, is I always forget circuits in Greg Tech. That's the number one thing. It's important to have circuits because it allows for recipe differentiation when you have conflicting recipes and inputs. For example, you know, biomass can be used to either distill into water, which I have no idea why you'd ever use that, or distill into what you really want, which is ethanol. Let's put that sucker in there and off it runs. And we're just gonna have it auto output to the bottom. In fact, here's what I'll do. Yeah, let's just leave it stock up in there for now. And it's really funny because I'm really pushing at the limits of my current setup, right? Like I'm almost, because these things top out at 400 RF per tick, so I'll either need more steam dynamos or need to put in more augments. Oh man, that's not even with my new EBF. That's with my EBF not running. Let's fix that. One awkward thing I hate about putting the cabling on top for machines is that I like putting hoppers on top of machines whenever I want to do automation. As you can see with my assembly line over there, right? In this case, it doesn't seem to follow. So I'll have to put the hoppers on the back. Minor quirk. I'm just really finding something to complain about. I'm really happy with how this is turning out so far. Now, let me fix all of these to extract into this distillery. All right, so I had ethanol running overnight. So it's only about you know, 2.6 million millibuckets. It was, oh wow, I guess I should have overclocked this. So it was about 2.6 million overnight. It turns out I did have to overclock this advanced distillery so that it could actually keep up with the 9 breweries. But on the plus side, you know, it's filled up, or at least I have a lot to play with. I think the big thing though I really want to work on next is actually getting my AE system set up, because now I feel like I'm in a really good time. I'm about to get into plastic. So a lot of the things in AE require a lot of various circuits. So let's actually back it up, right? So I have this interface here, right? I need a stack of, let's say I want a stack of interfaces, right? And a stack of molecular assemblers. So let's actually use a crafting calculator so I can figure out how to gather up all these recipes and do it right. So here's a demonstration of using a crafting calculator for once that I promised a long time ago. Here, let's go over to right here, molecular assembler, and let's also put the recipe in. All right, so it's required crafter, annihilation cores, etc. So let's just save that recipe, and let's also save the recipe for the crafter. So now if I want to say, hey, I want to make a bunch of molecular assemblers, I'll just dump that sucker right here, and let's say I want a stack of them. It'll give me a list out of all the various items that I'll need. The biggest ones, just looking at this list, are seems to be this not the industrial machine chassis. It actually seems fairly simple. That's not intimidating at all, actually. The scariest one is actually the, wow, in fact, it's funny because normally molecular assemblers are the expensive recipe, whereas interfaces are the cheaper recipe, but it seems to be reversed in this case. But either way, the scariest one is a logic processor by far, because silicon's easy to do. I have a bunch of silicon plates. I'll need to find the presses, but really it's these circuits, right? Some good circuit basics for each processor. Which is a problem because I'm actually planning to make like hundreds of these. I want like, I don't know, I guess I want 300 logic processors because I also want to make a lot of 64K storage drives. And people are wondering, why do you want to use 64K storage drives when you can use a storage bus on a drawer array? Because for performance reasons. Plus, I also don't like having a giant storage bus. I think that was my original plan, but I didn't know how hard the pack would be. And now that the pack is a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be, I think that I'm okay with just trying to, you know, a nice dedicated line for these inscribers. Let's look at these electronic circuits, right? All of these have various circuit boards and stuff, but the easiest recipe so far seems to be this one here, this refined circuit, and this can be done in MV. I just need to make a bunch of SMD, resistors, capacitors, and fine tin alloy wire. CPU is also pretty easy. I'll need a precision laser engraver, and I'll also need a good plastic circuit board, which is actually pretty easy to get once I get polyethylene set up. I'm going to work towards plastic automation and circuit automation, which should actually help me in other aspects of the pack as well. So the first part when you want to make plastic is that you're going to need sulfuric acid, which is kind of problematic because there's two main ways of getting sulfur. The first way is that you can actually get it from just, you know, mixing sulfur dust with water. There seems to be pristine blaze matter seems to be a great source of sulfur, and it's actually the passive infinite source that you can be interested later on down the line. Another one is that you'll probably get a lot of sulfur because sulfur is an element in the real world that tends to bind to a lot of other elements. One of the big processes in petroleum processing is just desulfurizing it, which is actually hydrogen sulfide, and that's actually another source. But for ores and stuff, right, you'll just see like pyrite has a lot of sulfur attached to it, stibnite, tetrahedrite, so you can get from there. But if you want like a nice sulfur early on to mid game, is one of those things where it's something where you'll probably get from various sources, and you'll just have a crap ton of it until you actually set up a dedicated resource for it. The best dedicated resource in my opinion is getting it from oil or the blaze spawner here, because hydrogen sulfide is just a great byproduct. You can also get a lot from sphalerite electrolyzing and galena electrolyzing. What I'm probably going to do now is have a electrolysis array setup. Yeah, I'll probably just do a really big electrolysis setup. Also, if you see here, I was also electrolyzing some chrome. I don't know, I guess this ran out of power. Oh no, I guess it filled up on oxygen. I'll also have to set up another drum for that. What I'm going to do is, like I said before, is that I have a bunch of sulfur stored up. Okay, 2 stacks is what I mean by a bunch. I can get more from electrolyzing some more of this galena that I have laying around, and from various dusts. And I'm just going to use that to process my first little bit of sulfuric acid and get my first little bit of circuit. In the meantime, while I'm getting that stuff set up, what I'm also going to do is I'm probably just going to make like 5 stacks of these electric motors, because why not? Normally I wouldn't make 5 stacks of these electric motors, the MV electric motors, but it's been getting to a point where MV is like one of the building blocks for a lot of applied energistic systems. So you might as well just use that one to make your motors. An interesting part is that you can actually use the fluid extractor instead of running one ingot through multiple wire mills multiple times to make the motor inside an assembler, I'm not in a rush. I can just shove this in a wire mill, then come back to it later because I still have several other projects to do. Worst comes to worst, I can make an MV wire mill and even overclock that to make it go by faster. So you'll probably end up finding yourself running out of stuff like iron because you need to make a lot of steel for stainless steel. You need to make a lot of wrought iron for MV and LV stuff. One thing is just remember that these deep mob learning recipes are still here. So you can just literally just make a stack of rotten flesh and craft that with a bunch of, you know, overworldian matter, and you have yourself stacks and stacks of iron. So don't forget about deep mob learning. Very, very powerful tool for passive generation at this stage of the game. Another minor tip is that if you're also running out of just carbon dust for steel and you don't really want to go mining, you can also electrolyze graphite dust, which if you mine at least one diamond vein, you'll have plenty of carbon dust to actually electrolyze, or graphite dust to actually electrolyze. So that's another thing to look out for as well. Okay, I've been overdue for making this for a while. Let's also make like 2 extruders because I've been really lacking on that, and 2 extruders would just speed up the process for so many different things. You know, when I said I was gonna make 5 stacks of these motors, I wasn't actually sure if I need 5 stacks. I just thought it sounded like a good number. Actually, what else do I need it for? Great machine casings, sure. A bunch of random ass drills that have different combinations and variations. Come on, we can get through here eventually. Okay, saws. Oh, is this all that really MV motors are used for? Okay, and then the usual crew of MV related stuff. Yeah, so I think in my opinion, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna make 4 stacks. All right, let's not go too crazy. Also, early on, before you have a large crafting array, if you just have a bunch of impure piles of dust, like say I had a bunch of impure uraninite. I just had this processing in the background with the macerators, right? Because I was just double macerating uraninite ore from normal ore into crushed and then crushed into impure. And I think it's just so easy if you just put like a really fast water source, like a compact infinite water source next to the cauldron. You can just throw in the dusts and you'll come out really, it's much faster. Even though yes, it is manual and not fully automated, it's not worth making dozens of centrifuges. That's later down the line. Because to clear your average impure dust from an electrolyzer takes like 9 seconds, 10 seconds, 11 seconds. Like sometimes it takes up 25 seconds for certain types of ores, and that's per dust, right? So that processing time adds up a long time. You'll probably need about like 12 centrifuges at endgame if you really want to process all the ores with the full byproduct stacked. I wouldn't recommend that. Like oil sands dust takes about 20 seconds, right? So processing all of these would just take forever inside one centrifuge. And just, I know you're supposed to make more early on, but the alternative is to just go to the cauldron here and just toss them down once, right? And it's just, if you just have a fast enough cauldron with enough water stocked up, it's so easy to handle. Although I kind of regret processing this oil sands right now because I have more than enough oil at the moment. So I'm just going to keep it there. I just actually need to clean it at this point, because look, my main storage is like what, 4 crates. That's like the main storage I go back to. But if you look at it, my processing line byproduct storage is like 12 crates. So you can argue that the storage I have in my crafting array is literally 3 times the size. I have more junk in here than I actually do in my quote unquote main storage. So this is, I just worked myself into a funny situation. And the main reason I'm getting myself a lot of pitch blend is because I want to electrolyze it later down the line just to get more uraninite. This was all a big grab for uraninite, so I could just take care of polymer and really just make the most out of deep mob learning in the background while I'm trying to get circuits up and running. The main reason why I'm just working on this stuff right now instead of the motors is because I'm just waiting for some of the motor stuff, the wires to process, my steel rods to be made and be magnetized, and then I can go back. Because this is like the big push towards the final base, quote unquote. So it is going to be a lot of manual crafting. But for me, this is, I don't know, this is almost meditative. I'm not sure if other players have the same opinion, but it's liberating when you already have the idea of what you want to work towards in your mind and you just need to get there. So it's kind of liberating and also invigorating. That's why, because it's like when you microcraft and you don't know where the microcrafting ends, like you don't know where the light of the end of the tunnel is, you kind of just lose it. You're just like, oh man, this game's not motivating anymore. It's not fun to play, which is completely reasonable. But if you know the goal you're working towards to, and you can kind of see it build up bit by bit, like you can see that stack of motors be finished, you can see that stack of electric pistons, those interfaces, the processing array, the circuits being all automated, it really brings a very solid feeling to progression. And I think Minecraft just does that really well. Forager, another game that I looked at, also a game that does that really excellently, like really hammers in your face that, hey man, congratulations, you made progression. And so that's why I really, keep coming back to modern Minecraft, just because I want to get that feeling of progression again. Because Lord knows I don't get that enough in my life. So I still have amperage to spare at this MV line here. So because I have 4 amps of MV pulsing through, so I'm gonna put it here. Another heads up is that if you're seeing around how I have like an assortment of just hoppers and crates on top of machines, you can't put two chests next to each other because they'll form a double chest. You can actually get around that by making a trap chest, and it's very, very cheap. It's just, you know, an iron ingot, a stick, crafted along with planks to make a trap or a tripwire into your chest. And the main reason why that's good is because a trap chest does not count as a chest, so it won't form a double chest. So you can actually have a single line of trap chest all above your machine processing array, or you can be really ghetto and just have the hopper at front, so you can alternate hopper on top, hopper on the side, hopper on front, hopper on the side. But that's that's already big enough of a perversion as it is, so I didn't choose to opt to do that. But you can if you want, if you're a sick monster. Also, I have no idea why I have this coal coke. I think it was a byproduct of when I was trying to make phenol. I don't know, it's just so weird. I just have all this coal coke sitting around. I guess I'll just throw it in, because I mean, they don't even have that many crafting uses, right? I mainly wanted it for the phenol, but I guess you can crush the coal coke dust, and then you can, you know, use that coal coke dust back into carbon, which you can then further use to make more steel. I can burn it for energy, but I already have sugarcane. So right now, I'm probably just going to use it for my smelters. It's funny though, because I'm getting really close to the point where I can make a multi-smelter, which in my opinion is the best furnace in all of modded Minecraft. It beats overclocked, in my opinion, it beats overclocked IC2 furnaces. It beats the ultimate furnace from Mystical Agriculture. It can smelt more than an item per tick. It smelts very fast. Like, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it can smelt stacks per operation, and then how much it smelts can also depend on how overclocked it is. So I'm a huge fan of this thing. It's also modular. Like, the way it's designed, it's just like it has all the benefits of being a GregTech multi-block, in that you can upgrade it in coils. Because if you look at the various coils, you can see a tooltip first for the electric blast furnace, then you can also see a tooltip for the multi-smelter, and you can also get energy discounts as well when you use the multi-smelter. So very fascinating block. When we get to it, I'll probably do a more in-depth explanation, but just know that I'm trying to build up hype. I'm building up hype for a reason, because I think it's a gangster multi-block. Like, it's probably my favorite multi-block. It's probably my second favorite multi-block in GregTech itself as well. The honor of the first highest multi-block would belong to the fusion reactor, of course. I'm trying to remember why I made all these aluminium wires. See, this is what happens when you have so much aluminium and you decide to take on like 3 projects at once. You just literally forget the shit you were working on. Oh, okay, never mind. I'm smart. So I was getting ahead of myself. Aluminium wires are actually for the next tier for EV. They're using a lot of EV components, as like, you know how copper cable is used in a lot of MV components? Same thing in EV. So I was thinking ahead. So I got ahead of myself. You guys ever just outsmart yourself like that sometimes? Alright, so let's look at these extruder shapes. I made a gear one already, but because I just hate microcrafting these plates, even though they're like a one-time thing and I shouldn't really care about it. Okay, so don't care about file heads or hammer heads, axe heads. Nope. Shovel heads. Nope. Don't care. Don't care. Do I care about extruder shape block? I don't think so. Large pipes. Okay. I know I need one for medium pipes, so let's get that out of the way, because medium pipes always come back to bite me in the ass. I don't want to use one for wire. I think we have the wire mill for that. Wait, yeah, exactly. Extruder shape for ingot. That's cute. Extruder shape for a cell. That's a good question. Do I actually need cells? So far, I haven't seen the need for it. Oh, extruder shape for a ring. That's important. Yeah, let's get that made. And also extruder shape for bolts. Also important. So the pro tip, I actually looked at it. Normally, the extruder for rods is better than extruder for a lathe, but I guess the recipe was changed. Or maybe it was changed in a recent update at GregTech and then I missed it. But before, when you lathe something like an ingot, if I was going to make electrum rods in a lathe, it would actually produce 1 electrum rod as well as a small pile of electrum dust. So it would only give you a 1.5 return rather than 2 rod returns. So that's why you would always want to make an extruder shape with a rod. But in this case, it seems like that behavior has changed. So now a lathe is just better when it comes to rods than an extruder. So we're going to stick with that. Same thing can also be said about the plate. Well, actually, the plate was always just worse than the plate was almost always just worse than the extruder. Sometimes people prefer it for some weird reason. I just think that if you have a compressor, you might as well just make a compressor. And then lastly, we need an extruder shape for a small gear, because we have big gear and baby gear. All right, and I think that takes care of most of my extruder needs for now. No, that's annoying. I filled up on oxygen again. So the thing is, I'm not even sure. It almost seems like a futile effort to be storing oxygen anyways, right? Just because, like, oxygen can just be made infinitely if you just have energy and water. The same thing with hydrogen. But I keep the oxygen around anyways, just because who knows when you'll really need it. Even after playing all this GregTech, I still have to look back every now and then to figure out when I actually need oxygen. Solidified oxygen, what the hell? This is new. It's caught me off guard. No, I guess it's a custom content tweaker item. So you can use oxygen when you want to be smelting in a blast furnace. That's fine, right? What's this? Hsla Steel. Oh, I guess this was a new added recipe for the turbines, because I did set a issue report that Hsla wasn't craftable. Now it is. Oh, fascinating. Okay. I'm on version 1.04, by the way. So I'm playing right now the day after it was updated. What else do we have here? Oxygen can be used. So oxygen's main use is actually in the chemical reactor for various items. Like you can use it to quote unquote double your, or have a multiplier on your ethylene. The funny part about this is that ethylene's kind of infinite anyway in our situation, just because, well, once we get infinite sulfuric acid, we'll have infinite polyethylene. So I'm not too particularly worried about that. I honestly don't know why I'm bothered keeping this oxygen right now. This is basically, I'm just trying to adjust to myself. Should I just break this void in and come back to it later? Probably. I mean, my real goal here, right? My real goal for all of this is just to get the chrome. That's all I really wanted from the ruby dust. Here's the upgrade. Perfect. So what I'm doing is I'm just doing tiny augments to my power right now instead of going full on using diesel generators for ethanol, while on top of trying to work on getting polyethylene and ethylene set up. In fact, how's that sulfuric acid doing? The one thing about these drums is that they take up the full hitbox, so it's actually easier for me to access the hopper. It's actually easier for me to access the machine through the hopper instead of trying to go through the top, which is, like, in my opinion, supremely annoying. I would rather wish that this had, like, you know, a diet size hitbox, same way that diet hoppers, which is added to the back, can actually make the hitbox of the hopper smaller. Oh my god, this is actually annoying. Okay, so new update on what I was just working on. I ended up switching, I just did a small tiny upgrade to the existing dynamo array. Even though I spent like yesterday working on ethanol, I went back to these steam dynamos, but I swear that ethanol will be utilized. It's just that utilizing the ethanol once again boils down to two things. It's going to be, we're using advanced diesel generators, which produce about 500 RF per tick, which is, you know, equivalent to basically one of these, or I will be using these large Greg Tech boilers, which will burn ethanol. And technically this is more efficient, but like I said, these require 24/7 runtime. So that's a little bit on the annoying end because they'll always need to keep on running. I'll just probably end up using the MV and HV diesel generators. And maybe when I have like a larger array of blast furnaces, because I mean, blast furnaces processing things on a tens of thousands of scale, so you're going to need about like, you know, 10 to 15 of them. Right, that number is on the low end as well, and they're going to be running around the clock. So if you want those suckers running around the clock, you probably might as well use a boiler, because these boilers will always have 100% upkeep requirements. But if you're not at that stage yet, then, you know, use the diesel selectively when you can. Another thing I did was I also switched all of these ender fluid. I switched a lot of these steam dynamo generators to ender fluid conduits. So it's now using steam just because of the higher throughput. Ender fluid conduits just have a max input output of 800 millibucks per tick, and they're not extracting because these auto push. So I'm not too worried about that, and they'll auto push into here. So now I can actually transfer. So I can put additional augments in these aside from fuel catalyzers, because before I was kind of maxed out already with the pressurized fluid conduits. So now I can just have them push into what was it? I can have them push more than 200 millibucks per tick, and I can also put in additional augments in here. Oh, I didn't realize this is actually expensive. Oh, that's I never actually checked this recipe before for the auxiliary transmission coil, because this requires like a block conductive iron, which is not that bad. It's just iron and redstone really, an energetic alloy. But I mean, this is, I guess it can get kind of pricey on the high end. All right, so now that this, I've added about you know, just another 1200 RF or another almost HV level to my array. I'm actually going to end up turning on my blast furnace again that I had running off, and turning on a couple other processes that I turned off earlier. So like this advanced electrolyzer. I'm finding some interesting behavior with these dynamos is that these are still throttled at 40 while the others seem to be outputting their full amount. I'm kind of curious as to why that's the case. Maybe this is just a coincidence where I maxed out, but there's additional energy here that I could be outputting, and I'm pretty sure I didn't max out the vibrant alloy cable, right? Because this can take up to, it doesn't even matter, right? Because that's 8K RF per tick on per connection. So why are these not working? Oh, you know what? For some reason it's working now. I guess it looks at dynamos on a Y level. Maybe that's how the conduit network tends to search for extractions. Okay, yeah, because before it was stuck at 40 RF per tick, so I guess that's how it just determines what dynamos get which priority, which is kind of weird then, because if you were super anal retentive about like each dynamo operating at the same level of efficiency, then you will probably want to have them all in the same Y level. But in the end, I'm pretty sure the math works out that it's the same no matter what. But if this just ends up bothering you that some dynamos are working at 400 and some are working at 130, then have them on the same Y level. The one thing I wanted to bring up, I actually should have mentioned this earlier, this might have been useful for players, but so let's say that I wanted to make this vibrant alloy because I wanted to make a vibrant crystal, right? And I needed to put in an autoclave. You can actually output it into a drum, but the simplest solution I found is just get a pipette, click on it, and it should store the 144 millibuckets of vibrant alloy. Then you can go to your autoclave, which is filled with water right now, so you're going to break it. But you're going to go to your autoclave and then just break it up, plug it back in, and then you can just pipette the vibrant alloy back in to make your crystals really easy. So it's just a very simple tool that you have available to you. Make sure to be able to use it. I know that a lot of people tend to complain about fluid management early on, but I mean, Pipette's just the simplest tool to really solve the problem, right? Let me just make sure this can be taken care of in a LV autoclave. It can. All right, perfect. Yeah, so you're gonna left click the pipette into the correct slot, put the vibrant alloy in. Simple as that, really. The main reason I wanted this was I wanted an experience rod so I could put mending on this glitch infused sword that I have, which ironically requires feathers, which is something that I'm close to running out of. That's super awkward. Yeah, there's no other way to get this book and quill aside from feathers. Damn it.